Namaste to all of you. The subject today is on self-knowledge. And I would say the subject of spiritualism primarily deals with self-knowledge. According to the subject, it's the end of all knowledge. Once if you know yourself, it's the end. Why is it the end? Because it is you who is responsible to discover the universe. It is you who is responsible to discover the subatomic particle, the minutest. It is you who discovers everything, from waves of energy to particles of energy, from microcosm to macrocosm, everything. So it is you. And if you do not know that you as to who you are, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And our scriptures very boldly said that the only person that you do not know is your own self. Is your own self. You seem to know everything, everybody, all around, externally. But when it comes to your own self, you are under an illusion, a maya. In fact, a deception. In fact, a deception. So, self is a very, very important subject to understand, because they also said you are that divine. Even the divine exists because of you. If you were not there, the divine would not be there. Divinity will not be there. Plants and animals cannot behave in divinity. Neither the divinity, nor the divine, nor the devil, nothing will be there. So everything around revolves around the self. And when you do not even know the self, how do you know the God? How do you know God? You came first, and God followed later. So what is the self? Very important thing. What is the self? Is it the psychological image of what you think, feel and believe? Psychological self? No, it can't be. Because you say psychology is mind, and to mind you say your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. To everything you attach a your before that. Yours meaning it's yours. It's not you, it's yours. Y-O-U-R-S. That means it's somebody, it's something else. It's not you, it's your quantum. It's a part of your quantity of what you are and not who you are. So, the body, the mind, as well as the soul, all three are individualized, whereas the subject of spiritualism speaks of only one you, the universal self. It does not, it speaks only of the oneness in that you, not even one you, the oneness in that you, in unity and continuity, in omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. It's all as one, in unity and continuity. So, that self itself is universal. And knowledge of the self, in fact, has no beginning and no end. No beginning, no end, and even no achievement, nothing. It's just to know and understand. It provides you with that clarity. And clarity in life is everything. If there's clarity, can you understand? You will know everything. You will be in full consciousness. Clarity is the highest form of understanding, not knowing. Knowing will give you that intellectuality. Clarity will be provided by your intelligence. So that's how it is. So the psychological self is not who you are. Neither is the soul who you are. And neither is that consciousness, that lower consciousness, that ego which you consider as yourself. Even that is not you are, because consciousness triggers the mind. It activates the mind. It alivens the mechanical mind. It is that wakefulness. It is that wakefulness. It is not that you. Why you do not understand from your mind your actual self is because the individual is separated in duality, whereas the spirit or the subject of spiritualism, which speaks only of the spirit, is non-dual, is absolute. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It is indivisible, according to law of conservation of energy. And energy is the spirit. And that is all that exists in this universe, as per spiritualism and agreed by science in quantum physics. So, the spirit in the subject of spiritualism is absolute. It's non-dual. It's in its wholesomeness. Wholesomeness. And that is all that exists. And in that existence, there is 96% science says is dark energy. There is no being in that. Whereas the restful person, matter and consciousness, it comes and it goes. It appears and disappears. It does not last for long. Every being has a limited space and time. It is restricted to space and time. Whereas energy is not restricted to space and time. It is spaceless, it is limitless, it is timeless. So, who is that self? Who is that self? It is that beingness. It is that beingness. Not the being. It is that beingness which makes the mechanical body and mind aware and to become after that conscious. So it is that beingness which is who you are. Now what is that beingness? That beingness is that who you are. And the rest is what you are. It's the quantum. It's the quality. Like for example, in an ocean, we see waves, we see boulders, we see the ocean. But in actuality, it is the essence. Water is the essence of everything. The waves and the ocean, both. So it is the essence which matters. So beingness is that essence of who we are. And it is reflected in awareness. Once you become aware externally and internally, you start knowing what you are. You start knowing what you are. Otherwise you would not. You need to be aware either from your past awareness, present awareness, and spontaneity. Present awareness and spontaneity is considered as intelligence. Past awareness in the memory deciphered by the intellect is considered as the intellect. And in spontaneity, intelligence comes through intuition and through your instinct. So, intuition, intelligence, all these are your beingness, And the soul which many consider as the ultimate. It cannot be, because it is individualized. And once it is individualized, contains a portion of the universal spirit. It is not in its wholesomeness. It is in duality. It has a subject-object relationship with the cosmos. Fine. It is non-dual. It is that divine within you, because it contains the non-dual absolute spirit. But it is not the actual self. The actual self is the universal spirit contained in the soul. So, it is said that it is the witnessing consciousness. It is that true self in your consciousness. Now, the true self is a little questionable. Why? Because the true self is the witnesser. That is the soul. Witnessing through mind on the witnessed, the object, the subject on the object, in duality. But the subject is the witnesser. It is individual. It is separate from the universe. It is segregated. So, who is the self? None of these three. Witnesser, witnessing, the witnessed. No, it's not. It is the witness, the flow of waves energy with the supreme ability settled in the mind, in the superconscious section of the mind called the soul, which has the power, the supreme ability, which the spiritual sages of the yesteryears, of the ancient, during the ancient times said Paramatma. Par means beyond consciousness. Parameshwar, beyond God. Parabrahman, beyond the normal abilities of the energy which appears and disappears and interchanges in duality. It is that supreme which remains non-dual, which remains absolute. So, it is that witness, observer observing the observed, when they all become one. Like Jittu Krishnamurti said, observer is the observed. When all these three, when the subject and the object, after being segregated, again joins into one, what happens, what remains is only observation. Like what remains is only the witness. Once the witnesser witnessing the witnessed becomes one in spontaneity. When you are watching, witnessing, only the witness who you are is the ultimate reality, is the ultimate truth, not the apparent truth. That is the mind, not the illusory truth, not the false truth, but the ultimate truth, one without a second. There is no second to it. And this is how the who, the self, the actual self has been described by the subject of spiritualism. It is the essence of who you are. It is the essence of who you are, and like I mentioned in my examples of ocean and say in gold ornaments. Gold ornaments is another example I can give. A ring, a bracelet, a earring, all are gold, all three are gold ornaments, but what is the essence in all the three? Gold. So similarly, it's like that. So it is that the essence is the supreme ability, and the supreme ability which the sages considered as that art thou. You are that divine, potential divine, settled in the superconscious section, is that supreme ability, and it is the understanding of the self which is most important. So please remember, there is only one spirit as the essence of everything that we have discovered, everything that we know. It is the essence which prevails and pervades in the ocean of awareness, which activates the mind, the mechanical mind, and forms the conscious principle. Without the conscious principle, the mind would be mechanical, like it is. It behaves 98% as per neuroscientists, mechanically in auto mode, in unconscious manner. That is why there is so much of anxiety and depression and chaos and all sorts of damages and destruction that we keep on doing. So, hardly the actual self is asleep, as per the sages, even when the mind is awake. So that is why we say awakening of the soul. Awakening of the soul and activation of the mind. The soul, once the soul awakens, it activates the mind. It acts as the witnesser. It utilizes the spirit as the witness, which I am repeating again for clarity. And this is how the conscious principle is created in the mind, by which you come to know all that we know of this universe, of this planet Earth, and whatever other planets that we know something about. And the self-knowledge is very, very important, that the self is nothing but waves of energy in its supreme ability, settled in the mind, in the soul, which has been individualized and which goes into the mind and gives you that false impression, that thinking self, that illusory self, functioning in duality, which you call as my mind, but you consider as me and mine. No, you cannot consider that as me, because it's contradictory. You cannot say me at the same time and also yours. Both are contradictory. So either you say I am mind, but do not say mind is yours. So there's a conflict, and this conflict is settled by who you are in self-knowledge, by the subject of spiritualism, which science is gradually trying to grasp in its new physics called quantum mechanics. Thank you very much for listening.